Before we can start designing a new system, we first need to understand why the current system has failed. Otherwise, we may end up with the same result. Let's start with these 3 points. 1. The conventional narrative of our socioeconomic system is so full of holes it no longer makes sense. 2. We're not asking the right questions, the ones that really need to be asked. 3. Systems are not ideological. They function independently of our wishes and cannot be fixed by mental or emotional trickery. Though we're supposedly taught to think critically, amazingly little independent thinking is actually applied to the 5 narratives listed in the introduction of my book and this video. Why is this so? There are several reasons. If these narratives no longer make sense, we have to generate new ones. That is an inherently risky project, as the new narratives might be as incoherent as the current ones. Though we really have no choice, the existing narratives make no sense, whether we like it or not. We avoid questioning the status quo because asking questions requires us to accept that the future is in doubt and that uncertainty generates anxiety. Another reason we don't ask the questions that need to be asked is a failure of imagination. Few can imagine a world much different from the system we currently inhabit. The idea that systems exist independently of ideology was sparked by a Donella Meadows essay, Leverage Points, Places to Intervene in a System. Prior to reading this essay, I accepted the conventional narrative that economic and social systems were ideological. Capitalism, Marxism, democracy, socialism, and so on. People believed in the system or rejected it for ideological reasons. That systems can be broken down into inputs, rules, and outputs that have nothing to do with our beliefs about their goodness or efficacy was a revelation. Simply put, systems succeed or fail independently of our ideological convictions about the system. Though the psychology of beliefs is complicated, it boils down to identity. Our belief in a system's value is core to our identity. We believe in the goodness and rightness of subsidized housing, for example, because we believe in social justice and housing for all. That it doesn't help low-income people is counterintuitive and unacceptable. It must help low-income people because we want it to help low-income people. Similarly, we believe that maximizing private gain guides the system to prosperity because we believe in economic freedom. How could anyone not see the goodness and rightness of economic freedom? That maximizing private gain destroys the system is counterintuitive and unacceptable. Maximizing private gain must make the system function properly because self-interest is the core of liberty, and so on. Every ideological belief can be broken down in this fashion. We resist this analysis because it challenges our identity. No wonder we resist. What is more core to our sense of self than the beliefs that anchor our identity? Once we understand this, we can separate our beliefs from systems. We can maintain our beliefs but understand that the system's success or failure has nothing to do with our convictions. If we want positive output, we must examine the system as a system, not as an expression of our identity and beliefs. Strangely, we insist on supporting systems whose outputs are precisely opposite to what we profess because we feel that an uncritical belief is an expression of our conviction. That leaves us with a stark choice. We either set a goal of designing a system that produces a positive output, or we indulge our ideological beliefs. It's one or the other. As Meadows points out in her essay, systems are often counterintuitive. We intend them to yield a specific output, but the rules and inputs we choose may yield a completely different output than we expected. Add in a failure to imagine a world different from the one we inhabit, and it's no wonder our systems are self-destructing. The first section of my book has 3 goals. Number 1, examine the gaping holes in the conventional narrative that render it incoherent. Number 2, ask the questions that need to be asked but aren't being asked. 3, understand our economy, society as a system. Once we've accomplished these goals, we will be ready to design a system that actually produces a positive output. A system that we can all live in. Again, examine the gaping holes in the conventional narrative that render it incoherent, ask the questions that need to be asked, and understand our economy and society as a